Hello, today is Monday, February 9th. Thanks for joining us for Up to the Minute. I'm Dr. Lana Pigow, Communications Director for Northwest College. And here's where you can find us. We're on the Houston City College District Facebook page, not HCC, and on YouTube. We're also on X, LinkedIn, and on HCC TV at noon, 5 and 10 p.m. Monday through Friday. Well, you may have heard that the United States is celebrating its 250th anniversary. Dr. Marjorie Brown, Associate Chair of HCC's History Department, is here to tell us all about some of the plans for the celebration. Welcome to the show, Dr. Brown.
Hi, thank you, Lana. So let me just start by talking about the first 50th anniversary of the United States, the first 50th birthday. It began in 1826, and there was a lot of planning, and they hoped to have the writers of the Declaration of Independence. So the Declaration of Independence is written in 1776, and this is when the United States decides to celebrate its birthday, July 4th, 1776. And so when they begin to plan the first 50th birthday or anniversary, they hope to have Thomas Jefferson and John Adams. Unfortunately, they both died on July 4th, 1826, hours apart from each other. And from that point on, the United States has always had these sort of celebrations every 50 years. And so usually in the first one in 1826, they would have American Revolutionary soldiers walking around and doing these parades in commemoration. And so, like I said, every 50 years, they have this big celebration. So the last one that most people will remember, maybe not our students, is in 1976. And President Gerald Ford was the president. And about 1974, he created this train that had 26 cars to represent, states and so forth. And it went around the country for about 2 years. And in some stops, I think he gave talks. And then in 1976, he had a big celebration. The Queen came and so forth. So it's really an exciting time for the United States.
I do remember that bicentennial. We were living in New York City and got to see the fireworks behind the Statue of Liberty. So that was pretty cool. But there is a special name for the 250th anniversary. What is that?
It is the semi-quincentennial. I've been practicing it. It is a
That doesn't roll off the tongue
semi-quincentennial.
very easily.
No. And so it's the 250th anniversary. We're a fairly new nation, democracy in the world. And I think it's something special to really celebrate and think about um, that something that was created 250 years, I wouldn't say from scratch, but with a lot of thought. And we keep those ideals today in being who we are as a nation. So it's a very good time to celebrate. Like I said, the big celebration will be in July. Our history department is going to start celebrating it this semester in the spring because in July 4th is like summer too. So it's a kind of, we probably won't have as many students. Right now, our history department has about 11,000 students. And so we're hoping to attract those students to one of our 4 events that we're going to be hosting throughout the semester.
Awesome. Well, I didn't realize that even though the Declaration of Independence was signed on a certain day, it took a little time for us to actually be formed as a nation. What do you consider the event that marks the birth of the United States?
I think it's the Constitution, but I can understand the importance of the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration of Independence is really a quite unique document in a sense that I always tell my students that 50 other nations uh, created their own Declaration of Independence. And so when we look at this document, it may not be the one I personally think of as, the main document, but I think the things that it speaks to about justice, about the importance of independence, the importance of freedom, it's really encapsulated in that document. And then you get the Constitution that really begins to lay out how the government looks and putting into practice certain things that provide you with protections of liberty and so forth. So, I mean, I get the independence, and I think again, it's important because 50 other nations, if you Google it, you'll see 50 other nations followed this form of declaring their independence. They use our document, the Declaration of Independence,
That
as
that
a template. Mhm.
that's really cool. Well, you previously mentioned we are a baby country. 250 is young compared to other countries, but we are considered that shining beacon on the
Mhm.
hill. Why do you think that is?
Because I think that the United States has been a place for people who are seeking liberty and they want and freedom, and they want that for other nations. And so I think that that's important, is that they see themselves as an example of a place for freedom and liberty, and they also express that to other nations. I also think as a young nation, the United States got to think, I would say, sort of being innovative. They weren't tied so much to old traditions and cultures, or systems. And so it allowed people to grow here economically, through education, pull themselves up by their bootstraps, all these sort of things that makes the United States quite unique. And I think other nations see that and then want to replicate some of the things that we have in place.
Well, you have a special event planned around Ken Burns's new documentary, which is a fantastic documentary if you haven't seen it yet. Tell us about that.
We got in contact with PBS, and they have a representative at the University of Houston. And she worked with us to create sort of this event where we would be showing 20 to 25-minute clips. Uh, if you've watched the Kim Burns documentary, it is 6 parts, 2 hours each. And we can't show it that long, but we have these 20, 25-minute clips. And then we're going to have a question and answer session. Two of them will be, the question and answer will be led by Dr. Kent McGowie. He's a scholar of the colonial period. This is really his thing, his happiness. And so we're quite excited to hear what he has to say about this time period. And so we're also going to have two events online. So our hope is really to talk about the American Revolution, really let students start understanding that the 250th anniversary is coming. It's going to be celebrated July 4th. I don't know what events Houston's going to have, but definitely there'll be events pretty much in every state and every city. So we just want to, introduce our students to this if they haven't been aware of it.
Well, speaking of our students, HCC, we do like to involve our dual credit students in the life of the college. So tell us about that special outreach you have planned for them.
So we are having a viewing at 6:30. We've reached out to all our dual credit instructors, asking them to please encourage their students to attend. They're about a third of our department. And for many of their students, pretty much, about maybe 70% of our students, this will be the first time that they'll see this sort of celebration, and they won't see it again for another 50 years. And so we really want to put an emphasis to really come out, watch it. It's virtual. Um, Speak with their other classmates. We'll have the chat room open and really just start learning about maybe something that they've heard about in class for maybe about a week, and really just delve into the American Revolution, and just really we want them to just jumpstart thinking like, hey, in July there's going to be something that we've never seen before. And I think that that's very unique.
I'm with you. I think it's also important that young people understand the American Revolution, and it's a good time to remind older folks what we fought for. So, why is this event important to mark the anniversary, the 250th anniversary?
I think that one thing, and just as a history instructor, we speak about the American Revolution like in a week. But the American Revolution was literally, I mean, it's like 1776 to the 1780s. It's a pretty long war, and it's a brutal war. There's smallpox. There are men who are dying. People who they fight and they lose their land. When they come back, they're broke. I think there are a lot of social things. You get Abigail Adams, who is John Adams' wife, who uniquely takes over running her home and her family, and she has to make financial decisions so that their family can succeed. So it's a very dynamic period. Um, you have ordinary men, low education, probably don't really have a good grasp of everything, but they're putting their lives on the line to fight for somebody like George Washington, who, really becomes famous in this, but is leading people who are not regularly trained to be in the military. They're just local people who hear the call and they join. So I think that our students, like I said, we teach this in about a week. But to really sort of look at this, and maybe by watching a 20-25 minute clip, they'll want to go back and watch, the longer version. But also our hope is that students, what they learn in this 25 minutes, they'll bring it out to their families, introduce it to their families, and then from their families to communities. So we just don't want them to keep the information for themselves, but also to spread it, because that's, again, it's a pretty big celebration. And they'll see stuff again in July, around the city and the state celebrating the 250th anniversary.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an important celebration to remind all of us that we're all Americans and we're all one country. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Brown. And after a quick commercial break, we'll be back to talk more about the 250th anniversary and also about HCC's history program.
For over 50 years, HCC has been here for you. Affordable, accessible, focused on your success. This is your college, growing, evolving, expanding with you. More bachelor's degrees, stronger workforce training, online learning with global reach. A new name, the same mission, bigger vision. Houston City College, local focus, global reach. Register now at hccs.edu.
Our individual voices are powerful, but not everything has a voice. Let us be a voice to the voiceless. It's time to speak up for nature.
Poison Help is a free 24/7 hotline that answers all of your poison questions in over 100 languages.
Hello? Poison Help?
Hello? When poison happens, we're here for you. Just call Poison Help, 1-800-222-1222.
And we're back with Dr. Marjorie Brown. She's the Associate Chair of HCC's History Program. Dr. Brown, there's some other really good documentaries out there. There's a TV show that I absolutely loved about John Adams and everything that he did for our country. Would you give us like a snippet of what his contribution was to the founding of the U.S.?
Yes. So I think John Adams is, he's a small farmer from Massachusetts. Hoping I'm saying this right. But one of the things about John Adams is that he is a lawyer. He's a prickly little fellow. But what makes him sort of interesting in being part of this whole independence is when the Boston Massacre takes place, he actually defends the British soldiers, and he gets them from being, put in prison, so forth. But when the revolutionary zeal comes about, he is firmly on the side of the colonists, excuse me. And what's interesting about him is that his role in the American Revolution is that he's not really here in the colonies. He's actually in Europe trying to secure funding and diplomatic recognition. And so again, he plays this unusual role because, again, from the very beginning, you would think John Adams would not be he would be for the British, where he lived, sort of the things he did. He was a small farmer, and he, again, defends the British soldiers during the the Boston Massacre, after the Boston Massacre, and they're on trial. But then again, he begins to support the colonists, and pretty much for the during the war, he is in Europe with Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson. And so they're all quite very smart men. So I can only imagine if they were all three in the room, just, sort of the stories and arguments they would get into. But John Adams becomes the second president. He has a lot of influence in thinking about how the country should look. So he plays a big role in the Constitution. And he will then just kind of live his life after his presidency. He's the first president that only gets one term. He's not a favorite of people. And I think that if you do watch the documentary of John Adams, you'll see why he thinks he's like the smartest man in the world, and so forth. But I do like John Adams. I think that when we think of people, we think that they're these very, untouchable people, but John Adams is a very human person. His daughter writes to him during the American Revolution, which I think is funny. And she says, "Hey, Dad, I would like to have all of these nice dresses that they have in Europe and all of these nice shoes." And he writes her back and he's like, "Absolutely not. Like, people are suffering. Like, I am not sending you back anything. And if anything, your mom should be sending me some money so I can stay here and support this, the war." So they have some very interesting letters. Even his wife will write him during the creation of the Constitution, and say, "Hey, you need to remember the ladies, remember the women who stayed behind and supported the families and kept the farms going." So I think John Adams just has sort of this rich history in it, as a revolutionary person, as somebody who was there for the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. And like I said, he lives for the first 50 years and then dies in 1826. So he has a pretty long life. So I think that makes him quite interesting.
Yeah, a lot of times, some of the founding fathers, they were in France, and people don't
Mhm.
understand what the heck were they doing in Europe? We got a revolution over here. We need to fight. Why were they over there in Europe?
They needed to secure financing for the war. War is expensive. You have to have somebody who's going to pay for guns. They're not just American colonists fighting. They're people, you know, from Germany. It's a lot of people, and I'll let Dr. McGowie get into the minutia, but you do have to finance the war, and you also have to secure diplomatic recognition. You can get your freedom, but you need France to recognize you. You'll need, you know, Austria to recognize you. You also need those foreign countries to agree to create trade pacts with you. So you need people, even if you get your freedom, you need somebody to buy the cotton, you need somebody to buy the clothes, you need somebody to buy the products that the Americans, they become Americans, create. So they're out there doing a lot of work.
Yeah, and that just shows the support that the U.S. had about this great experiment on democracy, that other countries really wanted to support that. Well, let's talk about the history department. My undergraduate degree is in journalism, but we had to have a minor. My minor was American Studies. When folks go and get a degree in history, what kind of careers can they have?
A lot. When I look at a lot of, politicians, they have history degrees. You would think political science, but I think of, they're politicians. You can do communications, you can be librarians, anything that requires critical thinking, because that's our one thing that we really emphasize with students, and it's our one marketable skill, is that we can read things, synthesize, and then we can critically provide analysis for it. And so I think that that's one of the things that really makes our major stand out, is that when you think about it, we not only can think, we can write it, we can produce it, and we really learn how the past, we call it the usable past, why it's so important and how it is affecting today. So I don't know. I fell in love with history as a little kid. And when I went to college, like many students, I think I tried my hat with a whole bunch of different things. But I really enjoyed history. I loved the telling of stories. I loved the fact that I can read a whole bunch of things and then come out with my own conclusion. And I think that while most students will say, I need to do STEM and I need to make money, I would say that our skill, we'll always have a role because we can do so many different jobs. We can only do computer science. We can do pretty much any job that requires thinking.
I love that because
Uh-huh.
I have a friend who studied futures. He's a futurist for NASA. And he said, in order to understand the future, you have to study history. You have to study the past because there are patterns. There are patterns that they look for. So I think that that's really important. Well, thank you, Dr. Brown. Appreciate you
Okay.
being here.
Okay, thank you so much.
Our individual voices are powerful, but not everything has a voice. Let us be a voice to the voiceless, the caretakers our home deserves. If there's one thing we've learned, it's that when we all come together, the sky is the limit. It's time to speak up for nature.
Well, welcome back and on to some announcements. Join us for an engaging workshop exploring the fundamentals of artificial intelligence, or AI. Exploring those tools and their impact on academic research and writing. In this session, you will gain insights into how AI can enhance your academic work while also discussing its ethical implications and appropriate usage. And that is tomorrow, Tuesday, February 10th at 1 p.m. via Microsoft Teams, and we'll have a link to register in our post after the show. And if you're an online student, you can help shape your student experience by participating in student government. Learn how in online sessions. And those sessions start Wednesday, February 11th at 4 p.m. or Thursday, February 12th at noon. All times are Central, that's Texas time. And that's going to be via Microsoft Teams as well. And we'll have a link to register in our post after the show. An HCC Student Government Association invites students to celebrate Lunar New Year by learning about the holiday's cultural significance and creating traditional paper lanterns. This year's celebration highlights the Year of the Horse and offers an engaging hands-on experience for students to learn and connect. And that will be February 18th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at HCC Eastside Campus in the SLC lobby. And Student Life is treating HCC students to a taste of tradition with a selection of historical treats to enjoy. Stop by and indulge in delicious treats while learning more about their rich history. And that's happening February 19th from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. at HCC North Forest Campus. And coming up later this week, we will learn about HCC's real estate program and find out about opportunities to get media experience while in college. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you all next time.
3,
Charlie,
4.
Charlie. Charlie. Hey.
Hey, Invisinerd. Wait!
Things are slow at work.
We can't live like this. We have to do something.
It's your car. You take it to people you trust.
Boy, the total rebuild, you were wanting to rip out your linkage. That's just an estimate, little lady.
It's your finances. You want to go to the experts.
Cut your payments by 50.
We've got all these credit card bills. We've got to find a way to get out from under this debt.
We can help.
The National Foundation for Credit Counseling is a nonprofit organization that has been helping people for 60 years. Visit debtadvice.org.
This past year has not been easy, to say the least. So, as a family,
we've decided to skip some old rules and routines.
like skip making my bed? Fine. Yes! But Dwayne and I decided not to skip the doctor for our kids.
Doctors are doing a lot to keep their offices as safe as possible.
Thank you. Talk to your preteen's doctor about scheduling their well visit and recommended vaccinations.
Let's go.
This is my house. My parents helped build it. Now we don't get wet when it rains. I don't get too hot or too cold inside. I can play with my sister, I can play with my brother, I can play with my mother, my father, my family. This is my house. This is my house. This is my house. This is my house.
This is my house.
Visit habitat.org to find out how you can help more families like mine.
Why is just a starting line, for the true self blooms only when we find our purpose, what makes us tick, below the surface. Our reason why is united, undivided, seeking understanding. My why is diversity and unity, a safe space in my community. It's a million faces in a mirror and everyone belongs. Find your why for a better us.